In 2017, 24-year-old Koo Jung-hwa accomplished something many of the 26 million people in North Korea have only dreamed of. She sneaked across the border into China, taking her son with her. Her happiness was short-lived. She was soon in handcuffs, weeping, envisioning barbaric torture and her untimely death. The question is, what would make a mother so desperate to compel her to risk obscene punishment and execution of her and her son, who, by the way, was suffering from severe frostbite? This will now explain and tell you what happened to Koo Jung-hwa and her son later. To an outsider looking in, you could sometimes be forgiven for thinking that life in North Korea isn't all that bad. Children go to school, folks go ice skating on the weekend, they cheer at soccer matches and make snowmen in the winter. But when you peel back some layers of this mysterious rotten onion of a country, your eyes will tear with incomprehension and grief. North Korea is a country with many faces. For the outside visitors that experience it, they see a carefully orchestrated version of the country, not the grim reality. They hear nothing about how people working in Pyongyang's cushy government jobs barely get by on their $4 a month wage, or factory workers getting solitary dollars per month. Some get 50 cents. They certainly don't see the hungry masses out in the provinces who are at risk of starvation and freezing to death during North Korea's incredibly bleak winters. People who work on the land of which only 20% is arable. These people are told daily they live in the best country in the world. First and foremost in the daily life of a North Korean is a large dose of propaganda. The enemy is always a threat, they're told, intent on wrecking the great life that they have. Japan, the United States of America, and the Republic of Korea all want them dead. This is a constant message in all media. The so-called eternal leaders of Korea are everywhere people look. Every day is a reminder that they should be grateful they have such a literally supreme guy in charge, a man from a family almost touched by gods. The people of North Korea start being fed propaganda from a very young age. All children should go to kindergarten and then to a primary school called People's School, where they stay from 6 years to the age of 9. They study in a secondary school until they're 16 and then possibly go to a university. Some do, but most just join the military. All education is state-funded. If you can say something positive about North Korean education standards, it's that according to UNESCO, the country has a 98 to 100% literacy rate. You kind of need that though when propaganda is being shoved down your throat all your life. Some lucky students might go on to study at the prestigious Kim Il-sung University, but only if they've excelled during their previous studies. Others go to one of the thousands of vocation schools, and many of those who excel in science or mathematics often end up at the University of National Defense, where one day they might find themselves becoming a leader in hypersonic missile technology. In 2021, a new part of the university was opened, a special department of hypersonic missiles. This is what many students aspire to do. You might be wondering how this is all possible when North Korea conscripts its young into military service. It is true, at 17, men must begin 10 years military service. Women may also serve, but only until they're 23. In both cases, there is a selection process, and the most academically gifted kids can ignore the military entirely, as can the kids of the elites who are born into high status. Something very important in North Korea is songbun. This is a status system in which certain acts gain people social credit. Good songbun means more choices are available to people. On the other hand, if someone's related to a defector, their score will likely be low and their options dire. North Korea states that all students must acquire the concept of revolution and endless loyalty toward the party and the supreme leader. All education is based on the revolutionary ideal. Every day that a kid goes to elementary school, he's learning the idolization of the supreme leader. When he gets home, the TV shows him how he can be a good revolutionary. Regularly, the TV explains how to accrue better social credit. Not long ago, a woman was roundly chastised by the Korean media for saving her kid in a house fire and not saving the pictures of the leaders on her kitchen wall. North Korea media applauded the neighbor who ran into the house to save the pictures. That's how you get some good songbun. The state security department uses various surveillance systems to keep an eye on people. The secret police is everywhere. People never know if their neighbors will snitch on them. This not knowing who to trust creates an atmosphere of intense fear, which, as you'll see today, has wide-ranging negative effects on mental health. It was recently reported that over 200 executions happened throughout the country, with teenagers expected to watch in many instances. Some teens were executed just for having a USB stick containing K-pop and South Korean soap operas. In one case, the kid was wheeled out into a stadium and shot 9 times as his school buddies watched from the seats. They were expected to clap, even though some kids were close to tears. Another report says someone had a slip of the tongue and criticized the government. Such cases do not reach Amnesty International. They happen behind closed doors. Like in medieval Europe, often the bodies are left to rot where they fall, a reminder to the public of what could happen to them. A defector named Ose Haik explained, "They hanged people in crowded places like markets and left the bodies there for hours to instill fear among the people." Another defector in the same report was just 7 years old. In painting class in South Korea, he surprised his teacher when he sketched a scene of a firing squad in the countryside killing locals in a field. This was his reality. So when we're talking about learning math in North Korea in school, it can sound normal, but we should not underestimate the distressing climate of fear these kids have to live through. Although to many this is what their normal day-to-day life is like, things are made worse because being a good snitch might mean the difference between starving to death in the next famine or being sent to the capital to work in relative comfort. In 2019, a cadre on state-sponsored TV announced that new rewards were available for snitching on people for engaging in illegal activities. They were told people who want to get the rewards can file reports, and the government can then eliminate people filled with discontent. The reward was $6. In North Korea, selling things on the black market, such as foreign entertainment or goods, is one of the only ways to make money. According to a North Korean source, most people didn't want the reward money. That would upset the black economy, the source explained. It did not work out well. The state can't even guarantee basic living conditions for the people, and the people can't make their own living without breaking the law, so why would anyone want to report on anyone else? He said these crackdowns happen ever so often when the government feels like it's losing its grip on the populace. In 2015, there was a similar snitch scheme. A source said the security services is cracking down hard on asylum seekers and smugglers, and it has promised incredible rewards to anyone who points to defectors or smugglers. Poor farmers, he said, were tempted. In 2021, someone snitched. It was reported that a villager and a soldier were shot in a field for the crime of disturbing entertainment, what leader Kim Jong-un had recently called a vicious cancer, trying to destroy the North Korean way of life. In one case, a large crowd congregates at the town square, and a young man is dragged out, accused of being found with, wait for it, a movie and 75 songs from South Korea. This is daily life in North Korea. A North Korean girl who escaped said she and her classmates were there when a kid was executed again for nothing but distributing entertainment. Like many North Koreans, she suffered from mental problems after seeing such savagery. She said, "The prisoner could hardly walk and had to be dragged out. I was so terrified that I could not dare to look at a soldier in uniform for 6 months afterward." It's not that North Koreans don't know anything about the West. They've been buying bootleg DVDs for years now. North Korean TV has innocently featured the Rocky theme tune, and Minnie and Mickey Mouse have appeared now and again. In 2018, prior to peace talks with the US breaking down, even South Korean K-pop stars were invited to Pyongyang. Kim clapped after some of the songs and asked questions about the lyrics, which was surprising to say the least. But that was just him playing the part of the benevolent leader, the good guy who now and again can relax. This comes straight out of a dictator's playbook. Every so often, they're supposed to show that they have mercy. Kim often pardons people from their death sentences, usually to great applause, just as happened in those bloody Roman arenas where the emperor spared a life because he thought it would get the populace on his side. When kids get older, they might go to university, but if they choose a humanities subject, it's still based on the ideology of the party. The word for this ever-present ideology is Juche. For instance, some philosophy courses are philosophy of the Juche ideology, or Juche political economy. It's brainwashing. You can be sure they aren't learning about anarchy, skepticism, and even the wonders of liberal democracy. Capitalism is evil, say the men teaching them as they drive home in their imported luxury cars. Ironically, the North Korean Constitution under Articles 64 and 65 guarantees democratic rights and freedoms for all citizens in all spheres of state and social life. That's what they call Orwellian doublespeak. North Korea is totalitarianism. Its mission is to carry out the military first revolution line in order to protect the nerve center of the revolution. Students can't question this. Academic courses are full of lies. Students can read that their supreme leader Kim Jong-il fired off a round of golf and after 11 holes in one got a 38 under par. This was on a professional course by a man who never swung a golf club. The students know it's impossible, but they can't question it. Some know it's not true that one of their leaders invented the hamburger, but they can't disagree nonetheless. Students who study medicine might question if it's true that North Korean scientists cured HIV and AIDS and Ebola. They just can't say that. North Koreans learn Korean nationalism, which has little or nothing to do with the Marxist communism and ideas about widespread well-being. They hear how their people are racially pure, that mankind itself started in North Korea, where the first humans arose. They're told that their purity is always in battle with the imperialist, capitalist foreign powers. The divine, they're told, can only be found in the Kims. Like European kings and queens in the times past, North Koreans are told the Kims rule by divine right. In 1992, American evangelist Billy Graham visited North Korea and spent time with their then leader Kim Il-sung. North Koreans learned how this Christian man was highly impressed by Kim. These days, they can read in books and newspapers that Graham said, "Having observed the supreme leader Kim Il-sung's unique political leadership, I can only think that he is God." The texts then say Graham looked at Kim and announced, "Kim is this world's God. Why would a country like this need the Holy Bible?" North Koreans aren't religious, but the Kims are portrayed as a kind of holy incarnation born to rule. If Billy Graham said so, it must be true. Imagine if the people knew their present leader likes to play World of Tanks online and occasionally watch Western pornography. Some of North Korea's best students become scientists. So you might wonder how they do their job, knowing many things they've been told are a lie. After all, science shouldn't lie. To get better at it, to improve something, you have to work with scientific facts. This is why the best scientists work behind great big, guarded walls. One of them, Kim Hyung-soo, said before he defected he worked in a lab trying to better understand diseases such as the hardening of the arteries. Everything he did was in secret. What he discovered was only heard by the party bosses. Hyun-soo once told the press that he had a colleague with a PhD in medicine who told his close buddies what he did. He was subsequently arrested as a political prisoner, as was his entire family. Knowledge is dangerous in North Korea. Talking about the general state of research, he said, "Scientists don't believe what the propaganda feeds them, but they cannot discredit it either. You have to think what the party tells you to think." Most people, though, don't work in science. The average Joe works 6 days a week in a factory or on a farm. Article 22 of the labor law says they should work 8 hours a day. They should also get national holidays, off days, and have enough rest time. Like you, they might eat 3 times a day. Breakfast might consist of rice and soup, possibly with some side dishes. The richer you are, the more you get. People often take a lunchbox to work with them, which again will feature rice and side dishes. Dinner is more rice, soup, and again, side dishes. People near the coast might get seafood. The more money you have, the more meat you can buy. Farmers tend to eat vegetables and herbs that they've collected themselves. A former North Korean soldier explained his rations, saying, "I still cannot forget North Korean army food. The standard meal was a bowl of 30% white rice and 70% cornmeal, 1 bowl of lettuce, and soybean paste soup. This was served with salted radish, soybean fried radish, and cabbage kimchi. Soldiers had this every day, but special food was given for their birthdays and national holidays." All defectors say the same thing. You need to make money on the black market to feed yourself well. The government's rice rations are not enough. One really cheap thing is smoking. North Korean cigarettes could be as cheap as 8 cents a pack. The standard price is 17 to 32 cents a pack. Almost half of the males in North Korea smoke, but very few females do, maybe only about 3%. It's also a heavy drinking country, with people preferring hard liquor, often bought at the market under the table. The reason for all the boozing, of course, is stress. As a German doctor and activist once said, there's a lot of alcoholism. It's the only pleasure they have. Fear creates sickness. I saw many victims of alcoholism in the hospital. It's common for people to buy their booze straight from the factory. If they can afford it, they get the Chinese stuff. One of the most popular drinks is Kaoliang liquor from China, which can be between 38 and 63% alcohol by volume. Very strong. Many North Koreans can't afford that, so people brew their own stuff, even though it's illegal. The government doesn't see this as the same kind of risk as listening to K-pop, so most officials turn a blind eye to people making their own hooch. One guy explained, "In my town, 1 out of every 10 households made alcohol at home. The most widely used ingredients were potatoes and corn." He said beer was seen as a soft drink that kids would regularly drink. There was an age limit of 18 for booze, but he said no one gave a damn about it. Again, this shows how lax North Korean rules can be for some things. You can destroy your liver or smoke until you speak out of a hole in your throat, but for God's sake, whatever you do, don't you dare listen to the latest BTS song. Folks like to drink with their buddies after they've just had to watch mind-numbing state-controlled television programs on TV. They might have to sing revolutionary songs in public and look like they mean it, but that doesn't mean they won't be laughing about that later over a glass of hooch. People do see through all the lies there, some people. It's just very dangerous to speak about it. One defector said this, "While the North Korean government wanted people to see their lovers as fellow revolutionary comrades, The truth was that this feeling never truly existed for many of us. We pretended to have that quality only because we were forced to. He learned about the supreme leader in high school, but said he and his friends sometimes ignored all that and had fun. He and his buddies used to drink together, they used to date girls, but since dating was not allowed in school, the couples would sneak off to one of the parents' apartments that they knew was empty. Much of the entertainment made in North Korea was just more propaganda. There used to be a long-running comedy show called It's So Funny, which sounds like the least funny thing you've ever seen in your life. This is some actual dialogue from one of the episodes. This man and woman are talking about how great beans are. Man, if we soldiers see beans, we become happy. He starts laughing out loud. Woman, if we farm in the way General tells us, we will become happy. They both laugh together, slapping each other on the back. That's the whole joke. Presumably, the viewers at home are also in hysterics. That or they were busy trying to choke themselves with their own fists while frantically looking for the booze. When a defector was asked about the show, he said, "The show is delivering the same material over and over again. They're still talking about beans. The country hasn't changed at all since I defected about 20 years ago." One thing you definitely don't get are documentaries detailing how many North Koreans in the far-off provinces are living on the brink of starvation or being worked to death in labor camps. This brings us to the matter of crime. If you can be executed for watching a South Korean soap opera, it can be expected that other kinds of crimes will also lead to severe punishments. North Korea has the same criminals as everywhere else on the planet. However, the highly corrupt government tries to portray the country as crime-free, unlike America, where it says society has become decadent, depraved, and divided. North Koreans steal. They kill each other in arguments. They work so damn hard in the countryside that they take methamphetamine when they can get their hands on it. Ordinary crimes like these are called kyowaso. If it's perceived that a person has engaged in anti-socialist activities, they might be exiled. If they have property, it'll be confiscated, as will their worldly goods. Exiles have their ration cards taken away and they lose all their citizen rights. They'll usually end up working on a farm or doing something like building roads. The people who have it worse are the 150,000 to 200,000 serving 5 to 20 years in a labor camp. The UN says about 40% of the prisoners in labor camps die from malnutrition. They're fed very little and often have to do grueling work, such as mining. Some of these prisoners are not being re-educated. The government has classified them as unredeemable. After a hard day's work on a farm or in a mine, starting at 5 a.m. and finishing at night, they're often given a small portion of cabbage or corn. Many prisoners look for insects or vermin, a good source of protein. Some former prisoners have said people have eaten grass mixed with cow poop. There are even reports of cannibalism happening in the camps. A defector who now lives in the U.S. after defecting said he was born and brought up in a labor camp. His name is Shin Dong-hyuk. In the camp, he knew nothing, not the existence of the USA or other countries, and certainly not that the world was a sphere. All he knew was pain and hunger. When asked if he loved his parents in the camp, he said he had no concept of love. He explained that once a girl stole some corn and was beaten to death for it in front of him. He said he felt nothing. He was a child of the camp. This was normal life for him. He went on to say if you escape, you would be shot. If you try to escape or plan to escape, you would be shot. Even if you did not report someone who was trying to escape, you would be shot. One time they dragged him and his family to the front when it was announced another execution was imminent. Since he was at the front, he thought it might be him. It wasn't, it was his mother and brother. Was he sad? No. He didn't know what love was. He said at the time he thought that they got what they deserved for breaking the prison rules. The rules were clear to everyone. They were stapled to the walls. Try to escape? Death. Steal? Death. Talk in a group of more than 3 people? Death. Rebel against a guard? Death. Don't report suspicious activity? Death. Don't admit you're wrong? Death. As for a minor transgression, Shin Dong-hyuk explained that once he annoyed a guard when he was still young, and the guard decided just to cut off his finger. He added, "I was taken to the clinic and given medical attention, but without any anesthesia whatsoever." The guards wanted the men and women to have relationships. The more kids in the camp, the more labor available. But the guards often didn't let people wait to meet someone they liked. Matchmaking would go like this. Guard, you two, you've been matched. From today on, you're married, work hard, and don't waste your time. If you slack, I'll split you up. Shin Dong-hyuk said for most people, resistance is simply unthinkable. He took the risk of his life and escaped. And now he's trying to make sense of that deep heart of darkness where he once lived. In less severe cases, let's say someone shirked at work or maybe they were found to keep a messy kitchen, they might face public ostracism. That'll consist of being ignored by colleagues. Your neighbors will tut when you walk past them. All of this causes severe stress. People feel the weight of their oppression at all times. Not only do many people smoke and drink a lot, but these days they're on drugs. In 2019, news reports said that during the Lunar New Year, one of the main gifts people exchanged was methamphetamine. It had seeped out of the countryside and into the cities. As with everything in North Korea, dealers were able to bribe officials, and so the stuff was being exchanged openly and very liberally. Drug dealing is also a great way to make money in a country where making a buck isn't easy at all. Psychiatrists that have helped defectors once they got to South Korea said they found many people suffered from a whole host of mental problems. In a research paper, it said many of them were still totally focused on survival amid continuity of intense suffering, even though they were now free. In short, they were traumatized. A separate study found that the cause of their trauma was witnessing government executions, enduring starvation, starvation-related deaths of family and friends, witnessing extreme physical assaults. Now there's a catch-22 in North Korea. People feel crazy with all that stress, but if they admit they're even depressed, it can be classified as anti-socialist behavior. If they say that they're happy even though they aren't, they're being good citizens. That's the reason a report stated anxiety disorders and depression seem to receive no specialized psychiatric treatment in North Korea. If patients are worse, perhaps psychotic or just maniacally screaming how bad things are, they're packed off to special number 49 hospitals. They receive zero counseling and psychotherapy and instead are given intravenous insulin that renders them comatose. Life gets much worse when there are droughts or floods or any number of natural disasters. The World Food Program has said that North Korean government used to give 400 grams of food daily per person, but in 2019, because of crop shortages, that went down to 300 grams per person per day. The UN says survival rations should be 600 grams daily per person. A nurse that defected in 2013 talked about the lack of sustenance, saying, "Since there isn't anything to eat in North Korea, we eat everything we can get. We eat roots and anything that is chewable." She added there was a mother who entrusted the nursery with her 3 kids, but all 3 starved to death. Out in the countryside, it's doubtful there will ever be power to heat huts and ramshackle houses when the temperatures sometimes go down to negative 13 degrees Celsius. They use wood or coal, but that's not always available. Meanwhile, elites are warm and cozy in their state-sponsored harems, women who've been taught to make a man happy in various ways. These are sometimes referred to as pleasure squads, or in Korean, kipomjo. But they are only for the 2,000 or so top officials who also enjoy luxury goods from the West, such as cigars, perfume, or the Rolls-Royce and Mercedes-Benzes that they often drive around in. These top dogs own mansions and palaces and have bank accounts in countries all over the world. Kim Jong-il himself is said to be worth $5 billion. He's reported to have over 100 luxury cars, a private jet, and a luxury yacht. Now you can understand why he has people executed for contacting the outside world. His propaganda is not a noble lie, it's plain old greed. And those at the top use the fear of the so-called imperialists so they can maintain their exquisite status. This is the absolute opposite of social happiness, but all totalitarian governments work under the principle that they are doing everything for the common good. The retirement age in North Korea is 60 for men and 55 for women, upon which they're supposed to receive 30% of their last salary plus 300 grams of food. Many will sell things at the market despite it being illegal, so they can try to get enough money for snacks or possibly drinking at friends' houses. The women, according to one defector, prefer to spend their time practicing such things as embroidery or handicrafts. Still, North Korea's social security system is not stable, so most old folks work. Teachers do private classes, some people mend shoes or umbrellas, others will walk around the streets charging close to nothing to refill people's overworked cigarette lighters. As always, the people with any power, the cadres, can always make extra cash from being paid bribes. A retired policeman might tell a young cop to turn a blind eye to that guy selling DVDs. In North Korea, most of the money that changes hands is black market money. Very few poor people in the capital will ever head to the glittering places such as the Potungang department store to buy their goods. Western journalists will often say barely anyone in North Korea can go there for things like the Heinz ketchup and the foreign clothes. They say the place was only created to show Western tourists and journalists how North Korea is no longer a place of abject poverty. Ji Sung-lee, who defected a long time ago, said she was never fooled. Sure, she hated the Japanese due to the historical reasons, but didn't hate Americans as she was told to. She remembers when she was young, she was told that during the Korean War, American soldiers tore the limbs off of innocent Korean civilians. Her young mind heard how these soldiers gouged out people's eyes, sliced off their lips, and then hung them from trees as they would decorate a Christmas tree at home. But then she decided to ask the older people in her village about this. She said, "They told us a different story. They said American soldiers adored Korean children and showered them with chocolate and gum. Like everyone in North Korea, by law, she had to stay in her province. She had to listen as the local government pumped out propaganda about their glorious leader. and TV every day had its 2 minutes of hate aimed at the evil imperialists. But now she's a woman of the world, and it's no longer a crime for her to wear the wrong facial expression in public or to think the wrong thoughts. She's learned that there's good and bad everywhere, but not all Americans give candy to kids. Some committed war crimes in Korea. That's true, but now she can talk about it freely, just as she could say what she wants about North Korea. As for poor Koo Jung-hwa, who we talked about in the intro, she was not so lucky. Amnesty says after she was caught, her son recovered from his frostbite and was sent to live with his grandmother. Her husband, who was in South Korea, said the one good thing is, for some reason, Koo Jung-hwa didn't end up in a labor camp. The reason we expect is the fact that Amnesty published the case. She might not be imprisoned, but her bad songbun probably hasn't done her any favors. The other 8 escapees that were arrested and sent back were not published by names, and their whereabouts are unknown. There's a good chance crowds gathered for their execution. The children covered their eyes, the guns sounded, and the blood leaked from their bodies. Then everyone got back to work as if nothing happened. Now you need to watch, did North Korea really hack Sony Pictures because of a movie? Or have a look at, so I went looking for North Korean websites and found this.